Namaskar, good morning, and a very warm welcome to Day 3 of Sahitya Utsav 2026. Curated by Sahitya Akademi, the festival consistently places literature in dialogue with other forms of expression. और आज इसी संवाद को हम आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं, तीसरा दिन और पहला सत्र जिसका विषय है Reflections of Art in Literature. We may all wonder whether literature merely reflects art, or does it question it, reinterpret it, or give it a new life? So आइए इस डिस्कशन को हम शुरू करते हैं, इसका आगाज़ करते हैं. I would like to invite the chair, Ms. Sandhya Purecha ji. Please put your hands together as she graces the stage and takes her seat. She is a renowned performing artist, Bharatanatyam guru, choreographer, author, and educationist. She is the chairperson of Sangeet Natak Akademi and also the founder, principal, and management trustee of Bharata College of Fine Arts and Culture, affiliated to Kavi Kuluguru Kalidas Sanskrit University, Nagpur. She has performed in many national and international festivals. Ma'am, आपका बहुत-बहुत स्वागत, अभिनंदन. इस संवाद में जो हमारे पैनलिस्ट हैं, वक्ता हैं, अब मैं उन्हें एक एक करके मंच पर बुलाना चाहूँगी कि आग्रह है कि वो मंच पर आएँ. फर्स्ट आई वुड लाइक टू इनवाइट श्री के गोपाल कृष्णन जी. प्लीज़ पुट योर हैंड्स टुगेदर as he walks up to his seat on the stage. He is a noted art historian and photographer, a contributor to leading journals such as The Hindu, Sunday Magazine, and Matrubhumi Weekly. He received the Government of India's Tagore National Scholarship. His acclaimed books include Kathakali Dance Theatre, a visual narrative of sacred Indian mime, and Theyam, Indian Folk Ritual Theatre, an Insider's Vision. Former director of the Center of Kutiyattam SNA, he is currently director of the South Zone Cultural Zone. We are very happy and glad that you are here with us as one of the panelists. अब मैं बुलाना चाहूँगी जयप्रकाश जगताप जी को. आपसे आग्रह है कि मंच पर आएं और एक वक्ता के रूप में अपना स्थान ग्रहण करें. आप महाराष्ट्र के एक अनुभवी कलाकार, लेखक और शिक्षाविद हैं. दशकों लंबे अपने करियर के दौरान आपने अभिनय कला महाविद्यालय के प्राचार्य के रूप में अपनी सेवाएं दी. आप कला, सिद्धांत, इतिहास और सौंदर्य शास्त्र पर मराठी और अंग्रेज़ी दोनों भाषाओं में 15 से अधिक पुस्तकों के प्रख्यात लेखक हैं. महाराष्ट्र के राज्यपाल द्वारा लाइफ टाइम अचीवमेंट अवार्ड 2021 से सम्मानित जगताप जी की विशेषता चित्रकला, विज्ञापन कला और दृश्य कला प्रशंसा के क्षेत्र में शामिल है. आपका बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन. Now I would like to invite Shri K.S. Radhakrishnan ji. Please put your hands together. He is a well-known figure in contemporary Indian sculpture, celebrated for his mastery in bronze casting and large-scale installations. His art, known for its rhythmic dance-like quality, is held in major public and private collections worldwide. He is the recipient of several awards and honors, including the National Scholarship Birla Academy of Art and Cultural Award and Fellow of the Lalit Kala Academy, amongst others. आप तीनों का, आप चारों का मंच पर बहुत बहुत अभिनंदन. और हमारी ये खुशकिस्मती है कि आज हमारे बीच हैं पल्लवी प्रशांत होलकर जी, सचिव साहित्य अकादमी. आपसे आग्रह है कि आप मंच पर आएं और विराजमान हमारे चेयर और बाकी वक्ताओं का अभिनंदन करें. सबसे पहले हमारी चेयर अध्यक्ष संध्या पुरेचा जी. के गोपालकृष्णन जी. जयप्रकाश जे जगताप जी. और के.एस. राधाकृष्णन जी. हम एक ग्रुप फोटो के लिए मैम स्टेज पर आ सकते हैं. नहीं आप थैंक यू पल्लवी मैम, थैंक यू सो मच। और अब बिना वक्त ज़ाया किए हुए हम आज के इस संवाद को, इस चर्चा को आगे बढ़ाना चाहेंगे। द ड्यूरेशन ऑफ दिस सेशन इज़ 1 hour 30 minutes. I know we have started a little late. Still we'll try to keep a hold on the time. So from here on, I would request our chair to steer this discussion forward. May I request handheld mics here on the dais?
नमो नमः। साहित्य में कला के प्रतिबिंब जैसा विषय एक बहुत ही गहन विषय है जो हमारी सभ्यता और संस्कृति यानी सांस्कृतिक चेतना का एक मूल है और उसका एक आधार है। भारतीय परंपरा में साहित्य और कला को कभी भी अलग अलग नहीं माना गया है। साहित्य भावों की अभिव्यक्ति है और कला उन भावों का सजीव अनुभव है। कवेर अंतर्गतम भावम भावयन भाव उच्यते। नाट्यशास्त्र में कहा गया है कि कवि के अंतर्गत मन में रही हुई भावना को प्रदर्शित करना नट नर्तक का कार्यक्षेत्र है। वाक्यम रसात्मकम काव्यम, अर्थात रस से युक्त अभिव्यक्ति ही काव्य है। तो रस ही सबका मूल आधार है। सो कला और साहित्य की अभिन्नता, अभिन्न एकता, भारतीय चिंतन में कला और साहित्य एक दूसरे के पूरक हैं। इसीलिए नाट्यशास्त्र में न तत् ज्ञानम न तत् शिल्पम न सा विद्या न सा कला न स योगो न तत्कर्मम यन नाट्यस्मिन् यन न दृश्यते कहा गया है। अर्थात साहित्य, संगीत, नृत्य और दृश्य कला एक समन्वित रूप है। तो आज इस विषय पर दिग्गज हमारे साथ आए हुए हैं। आइए हम उनसे सुनते हैं। So we'll begin with K.K. Gopalakrishnan ji. Your view on the subject, please. Yeah. So.
Ji and other dignitaries and Pallavi ji, my colleague. Actually, I prepared a small PPT for around 20 minutes. Due to the time constraints, I will reduce it and I will speak with the support of more visuals than just making. So our topic is reflections of art in literature. This is the philosophy that guides me always put forth to know about other culture, because we think our culture is great, but equally great are other cultures too. That really makes a scholar. And reflection art and literature embraces literature in art as well. So in case of any disagreement, slide. It's already on that, no? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Wait a first second. Yeah. Yeah, now you can read it. Right. Okay, I'll quickly go. So in case of any disagreement, let us agree to disagree. After all, literature is another branch of art that underscores the give and take between these two siblings. One is Bharatanatyam, the other is Satriya, because you can see in the macro elements a lot of similarities in the micro elements, the indigenous elements. Hence, I'll be reflecting on art in literature and literature in arts two ways. I'm not going into detail now. See, in both arts and literature, the general belief of the spectator or the readers is that an application usage is fresh because they have not come across it before. Hence, ignorance also leads to a new dimensions of appreciation and aesthetics. This is very true when you discuss about magical realism and the contributions of Marquez and O.V. Vijayan in Kerala. Vijayan never got a good translator in English on time. I wrote a big article on the Hindu about that. I'm not detailing much. But in stylized art traditions like Bharatanatyam, a leading exponent is sitting here, so I don't want to talk much on Bharatanatyam because there is butterflies in my stomach, Sandhya ji, to talk about Bharatanatyam in front of you. But in forms, which we are, in art forms, this is not that familiarity breed contempt, but familiarity makes you to appreciate more. And while the alphabets are the basis of the published literature, the mudras, hand gestures and other gestures form the basics for the performing arts. However, in performing arts and also in the literature, people use adverbs to modify the verbs and not for nouns when you look deep into literature. But in performing arts, we have the manodharma to elaborate, be with the superlatives on the noun, such a king, beautiful woman, like that. And literature, once printed, can be available everywhere. But for the performing arts, if not documented on time, on their peak time, it has gone forever. We can only bank on great stories with superlative terms. And Indian tradition, music tradition, Carnatic music is more Sahitya oriented, literature oriented, along with other elements. So let us listen to a small clipping. It's not working.
Tadarinanamo Tadarinanamo Nidhi chala sukhama Nidhi chala sukhama Ramuni sannidhi seyeva sukhama
Now, this is a very famous composition of Tyagaraja or Nidhichala Sugama, set to Kalyani Raga, when Tyagaraja was offered with all the facilities, a big offer from the King Sarfoj. This was his reply. He wanted to praise the Lord than the king and live lavishly. So this is a period of Tyagaraja. I will just quickly go through that. And this is an important composition, literary composition in Carnatic music. And this is the meaning of the story when it was depicted in Theyyam, one of my favorite forms. Anyway, here let me mention about a few stories of T. Padmanabhan, a seminal figure in post-independence Indian literature. Now 95 and still writes romantic stories. He wrote only hardly 200 stories in his entire 75 years of writing. And this Nithichala Sugama is one of the very famous stories in Malayalam, where he tells about the story of a Ramanathan, a retired engineer who was never corrupt. Similarly, another story, The Last Song, set against the soul, music and silence. Padmanabhan tells about the frustration of a musician who never went for a commercialization and was ignored by the publicity monger Middleborough Taste organizers. Desh Hindustani Ragam is another very famous story you may be knowing very well. Here the frustration of a PhD scholar and Virginia Woolf's interpretations comes musically enriched in a story, and finally highlights the Tumri normally sung during the rainy season. And another one is Nalina Gandhi. Nalina Gandhi itself is a raga, on Mana Vyala Kim is a very famous composition by Tyagaraja, and the lyrics speaks about the difficulties that one's own emotions and inner thoughts creates. So I just mentioned the stories of Padmanabhan to music, performing art, because he's a great fan of music. He's a connoisseur of Carnatic music, and I personally know that over 60 years he used to go to Madras, Chennai during the music seasons and to watch the programs. Then we comes Krishnanatam, another literature, Krishnagidi of 1654, from which the Krishnanatam originated and which highlights Samanta Malahari, Indalam and Malahari, some of the ragas only available in prevalent in Kerala. And it's a late legendary Sopana Sangeetam exponent, late Nyaralathi Rama Podwal. And the Sopana Sangeetam is a tradition in Kerala even before the trinities of Carnatic music. And this Melakarta pattern, that is another significant literature as far as music art is concerned, because Vengadamagi wrote about in the 17th century, and it was based on Swaramela Kalanidhi, the two seminal literature in Indian music. And the writings of Kunjan Nambiar, Kalakattu Kunjan Nambiar, also highlights the richness of art in literature. These are the three forms of Thulal that composed by Kunjan Nambiar. And Kunjan Nambiar is considered as the Shakespeare of Malayalam literature, and there are several Malayalam scholars well versed in English who prefer to turn the phrase around. Kunjan Nambiar, Shakespeare is the Kunjan Nambiar of English literature. And there is another form called Mohiniyattam, where the Vyavaharamala, the text of Sanskrit, is a jurisprudence, mentions about dances, how much to be, it's a legal document, legal literature. We don't know when it was written, obviously before the 16th century, how much the payment should go to the artist also. And in the commentary of the 17th century, the dances were interpreted as Mohiniyattam. So from this literature, we understand the history of Mohiniyattam partly. And another reference of Mohiniyattam, as I mentioned in Kunjan Nambiar's work, it is also coming. Betty True Jones did a research on this paper. It was not well done. Then there is Teyyam, a male-centric art form. This Teyyam is a deification of human beings and spirits and God, but they have Thotam, Varavili, Vadinada, all these songs, which is a documentation of the history of that period through the literature, but this basically an oral theatre. This is one famous Teyyam, Muchod Bhagavad. This is Thotam. This is the same person in the performance. This is the Thotam on Kadango to Maka, in which he mentions about going to see Kathakali performance and Mohiniyattam. So we date back to the period of this. This is the Teyyam Kadango to Maka with the children. This is Kadivennur Veeran. There is a small. The history of the period. Then we have Thotam of Pottan, which is very famous because that questions casteism long back to Shankaracharya. So asking, if this won't happen on your body and my body, the blood comes red. I am making the rice, paddy, which you are eating. Then how can you talk about casteism and untouchability? This is theatre in Teyyam. It's based on Ramayana. This Teyyam is considered Bali and Sugriva, and during the ritual performance, they do theatre as well. And we have Kudiyattam, the Sanskrit theatre tradition, basically doing Basa's play and 8th century Shaktibhadra's Ashchirya Chudamani and the 10th century Kulashekara Varma's play. This is the characters coming. And this is the only form, as far as I know, an ancient form that still uses Prakrits. And unfortunately, the female roles of Kudiyattam and devil roles could speak only Prakrit, not pure Sanskrit. So that is a very controversial thing even now. So we have this Kathakali. This is also based on Atakada, text for play. And this has become a very prominent stream of Indian literature, this Atakada, which are taught even at the MA, MPhil levels. This is a composition of Ramayana in Bharatanatyam style by the Kalakshetra, where the late Balagopal is using a Kathakali technique for the jump of Hanuman. He was trained in Kathakali as well. And this quote, generally I would like to, any mythological story when presented in an art form, it doesn't matter that story began in Kathakali. For example, one can go enter into any time and come back any time. The great secret is that there is no secret in it. Quoting from The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy, there is a small acting. Do you want to see? Do you have the time, Sandhya ji? 4 minutes? 2 minutes, I'll show you then, yeah. This you can see. These are going to the forest, seeing an elephant, attacked by a snake and an elephant. I don't know how to move it, forward it. Can I help you? Yeah, I want to read it. No, then try. No. I'm not going to, these are all the books on, some of the books. And you can see Padmanabha reading a book on Vilayat Gan by Namita Devi Dayal. Thank you so much. I didn't show the Ajakala Veridam because it takes 4 more minutes, but to give enough time for my other speakers and to respect the order from our own Sandhya ji. Thank you so much. Yeah.
First of all, thank you very much, K.K. Gopalakrishna ji, for his beautiful reflection of art and literature, where you have also specifically mentioned about the Manodharma, which is normally performed by the performing artist, whether it is a dancer, whether it is a musician. Everyone follows this Manodharma pattern. Of course, the story of the Tyagaraja, which is a song Nidhi Chala Sujam, you have mentioned it, which was another example which musically very enriched for all of us. And of course, the example of the Sopanam Sangeetam, which really has this enrichment of the reflection of art and literature together. And Melakarta pattern also you mentioned about. You also mentioned about the Kinchan Nambiar ji, and also about the special treatises which is a Vyavaharamala, which we all go through it when we study the music part of it, and about the Otam Tulla and the Thayyam. When you spoke about the literature, documentation of the historical evidences, it really made us enriched in the field of literature and art relationship. And finally, about the Ramayana performances and Kudiyattam Sanskrit play with the Prakrit language, which is a very rare combinations, which you really mentioned, because the inseparable unity between the art and the literature. So, because Indian thought has never separated art and literature, rather it is an envision them, which you have proved it with through these Ramayana and Mahabharata example. So thank you very much for enriching us for this, Gopalakrishna ji. Thanks. So, yeah, we will now invite Jagtap ji. I welcome you, sir.
नमस्कार। मंच पर बैठे हुए सभी मान्यवर और आप सभी बंधु भगिनी, हिंदी में बोलने का मेरा पहला टाइम है, इसलिए थोड़ा सा मैं आज काव्य और चित्रकला में सौंदर्य तत्व के ऊपर थोड़ा सा प्रकाश डालूंगा। काव्य और चित्रकला में एक सौंदर्य तत्व है। काव्य में माधुरी या माधुर्य यानी मिठास उत्पन्न करने के लिए वक्रोक्ति का उपयोग करते हैं। विशिष्ट संस्कृत और अभिव्यक्ति का एक रूप रहता है। पर दंडी ने जो विस्तार से चर्चा की है इसके ऊपर, यह चर्चा चित्र माधुर्य ऊपर भी लागू होती है। उनके अनुसार वक्रोक्ति यह एक जड़ में आकारों की और गौणता की अप्रधानता रहती है। समाधि गुण के विशेष वर्णन से यह स्पष्ट होता है कि चित्र का संपूर्ण अंतराल आकारों और इस गौणता और उससे प्राप्त होती है, ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। यदि गौणता लक्षणा है तो सभी आकारों को बीज, इसलिए मैं मानता हूँ। दंडी का सुझाव है कि चित्र का सौंदर्य आकारों में इसी गौणता में और निष्पन्न यानी उत्पन्न होती है, और यह माधुर्य, उदारता, कांति और समाधि जैसे रंग गुण का आकारों का एक गौणत्व प्राप्त होता है, व्यक्त होता है। दंडी का काव्यशास्त्र संबंधी यह विचार चित्र रचना के रंग गुणों को भी उसका सकिट बैठक होती है। जब चित्र का अंतराल रंगों से अधिक भर जाता है तब चित्र रचना आकारों और एक अर्थ में उसका गौणत्व यह स्थान प्राप्त होता है। ऐसा कहकर दंडी ने चित्र सौंदर्य और अंतरंग यानी आंतरिक स्वरूप में भी प्रवेश किया है। अभिव्यक्ति और प्रतिभा ये चित्रकार के अंतर्मन में भाव जब वक्रोक्ति के माध्यम से सुंदर बनकर साकार करते हैं, तभी एक श्रेष्ठ चित्र का जन्म होता है। चित्र में वस्तु और विशेषता प्रकट होनी चाहिए। उदारत्व गुण के कारण यह सब संभव होता है। वस्तु केवल जो कि त्यों यानी यथातथ्य करने का, वर्णन करने का यानी यथातथ्य ड्रॉ करने का कोई मतलब नहीं रहता, क्योंकि वो कला का कार्य नहीं है। जैसा फोटोग्राफी का आता है वैसा हमने ड्राइंग निकाला तो उसमें कुछ फ़ायदा नहीं है, वो कला नहीं होती। तो उसके ध्यान रखकर अपने मन की कल्पनाओं का साधारीकरण ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट रहता है। आजकल फोटो और साधारण हुबेहूब रंगित रंग पेंसिल या किसी के माध्यम से बनाने जाते हैं तो कला नहीं होती, वो कॉपी होता है, वो कॉपी होता है वास्तवता। लेकिन उसमें केवल कौशल्य यानी स्किल अधिक होता है, वही कला है। इसलिए चित्रकारा की प्रतिभा ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। किसी रचना को चित्र की पद्धति पर प्राप्त करना बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। चित्रकार को उसमें अपना कुछ अंश डालना चाहिए। हम वास्तव का चित्रण किया तो वो चित्रण नहीं होता, फोटोग्राफिक होते। आजकल क्या होते हैं, बहुत जन कॉपी करते हैं और हुबेहूब करते हैं, तो उसमें कुछ फ़ायदा नहीं, क्योंकि वो फोटोग्राफिक है, वो फ़ोटो निकलने से आता है। लेकिन उसके प्रसंग में अपना कुछ कल्पना उसमें डालनी चाहिए, तो ही कले का निर्माण होता है, ऐसा मुझे लगता है। दंडी ने काव्यदर्श के आकार पर ये सब कहा है, जिसे उक्ति और उत्कृष्ट गुण प्रतीत होते हैं, वही काव्य पद्धति यानी वही चित्र पद्धति सनात यानी सार्थक होती है। जिसमें गुण प्रतीत होते हैं वही काव्य है। जैसा जिसमें गुण प्रतीत होते हैं, कल्पना प्रतीत होती है, वही चित्रकला है। ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है। उदारता एक सर्वोत्कृष्ट कले का गुण है, जैसा कले का है, काव्य का है। वस्तु की विशेषता यानी उसका जो कैरेक्टर है वो बहुत प्रकट करना इम्पोर्टेंट रहता है। इसलिए अग्राम्यता, वक्रोक्ति और विद्वत्ति ही चित्रकला के मूल मर्म है। कांति गुण ये विवेचन में दंडी ने इसे स्पष्ट किया है। चित्र का वर्णन करते समय उसमें लोकधर्म यानी वास्तविकता और अनुभव ही होना चाहिए, लेकिन केवल लोकधर्मी स्वरूप के वर्णन से चित्र सौंदर्य निर्मिति नहीं होती। इसलिए उसे नाट्य का ही संबंध आना चाहिए और उसमें चित्रकार की प्रतिभा का समावेश होना चाहिए। कलाकार को वास्तवता और नाट्यधर्मी रूप देकर उसे साकार करना चाहिए। नाट्यधर्मी जाना चाहिए। खाली हम फोटोग्राफिक पेंटिंग करेंगे या चित्र बनाएंगे तो उस पर कुछ फ़ायदा नहीं है। उसमें ड्रामेटिक तो कुछ चाहिए, अपना कुछ चाहिए। ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट होता है। वामन भाविक नामक गुण को उन्होंने स्पष्ट किया है। तो चित्र का अर्थ जिससे अप्रत्यक्ष प्रत्यक्ष रूप से व्यक्त होता है वो भाविक गुण है। दंडी ने इसे प्रक्रिया के रूप में स्पष्ट किया है। चित्रकार के अंतरंग और भाव अभिव्यक्ति ये वैशिष्ट्य के प्रत्यक्ष कारण प्रकट करने के होते हैं। चित्रकला में सौंदर्य शास्त्र हाँ बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है। गुण और अलंकार इसमें आता है। सुकुमारता आती है। इसका अर्थ ऐसा है कि केवल कोमल रंगों का, वर्णों का उपयोग करने से चित्र रचना मनोरंजक होगी, लेकिन उस मनोरंजन को हावी होने के लिए या हावी होने के देकर यदि दृश्य सुलभ आकार, रंग और रेखाओं की योजना की जाए तो वो सुकुमारता उसे प्राप्त होती है। लेकिन जो अमूर्त है, नॉन रिप्रेजेंटेशनल या वस्तु निरपेक्ष कला, जो अभी आजकल एब्स्ट्रैक्ट बोलते हैं, वस्तु निरपेक्ष कला का अर्थ समझना कठिन होता है। इसलिए आनंद देने वाले प्रसाद गुण ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ आर्ट में है। ये युक्त आकारों की योजना करने से चित्र रचना बहुत बढ़िया होती है। इसमें माधुर्य यह रचना का एक महत्वपूर्ण अंग है। दृश्य मधुर आकार इनकी योजना करने से चित्र का अनुभव एक अलग तरीके से अपने मन में और देखने वाले के मन में आता है। माधुर्य जिसे प्रकार का आकार गुण है, वैसे ही एक रंग का गुण है। माधुर्य खाली आकार का गुण नहीं है, तो रंग का ही गुण है। दंडी ने इसके अनुसार माधुर्य गुण को रस सौंदर्य कहा है। और मन की जन्मजात शक्ति जो होती है, स्वाभाविक शक्ति और वस्तु, ये दोनों ही रस माधुर्य है। कला माधुर्य ये चित्रकला का आकार गुण है और चित्र का आशय सौंदर्य ही है। वस्तु रस है जैसे कोई भ्रमर फूल के ऊपर अपना रस पीकर उसका रस पीकर उन्मत्त होता रहता है, वैसे ही हृदय और रसिक के चित्र में माधुर्य और वस्तु रस का आस्वादन कर लेने से एक मन को आनंद प्राप्त होता है। ऐसा बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है कि खाली कॉपी नहीं करने का, अपने मन का कुछ तो उसमें डालेंगे तो वो अलग सी बात होती है। लेकिन आजकल एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में कोई लोग, यानी हमारे लिखते बच्चे लोग, कोई भी ऐसा क्या किया है, अंदर से आया वो डाल दिया है। अंदर से कोई आता नहीं है, अंदर से आता है तो वो दिखना चाहिए अंदर से। कुछ तो इधर का लेने का, उधर का लेने का, करने का और एब्स्ट्रैक्ट बोलने का, इसको कुछ फ़ायदा नहीं। एब्स्ट्रैक्ट में भी कुछ एक वास्तवता रहती है, वो हर एक की अलग अलग रहती है। जिस अलंकार में श्रृंगार आदि रसों का स्पष्ट दर्शन होता है वह रसवत अलंकार होता है। इसलिए रसों का समावेश, अलंकार की व्याप्ति यानी व्यापकता, ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात है। और यही वामह का ऐसा थिंकिंग है, विचार है। काव्य की शोभा बढ़ाने के लिए धर्मों और अलंकार इस कहते हैं धर्मों का। इसका अर्थ चित्र और काव्य में सौंदर्य उत्पन्न करने वाले आकार, शब्द और अर्थ, ये धर्म अलंकार है। प्रसाद, माधुर्य ये चित्र गुण है। उपमा जैसे अलंकार, इस सभी को अलंकार ही मानते हैं, क्योंकि गुण और अलंकार चित्र सौंदर्य में एक बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट होता है। और वही जो हम दिखाते हैं और वही प्रेक्षक भी अनुभवते हैं, ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट रहता है। इसके ऊपर बहुत बोलना है, लेकिन बहुत लोग अभी आने वाले, तो मुझे इधर कुछ मेरे विचार व्यक्त करने की अनुमति दी, इसलिए मैं सब का आभारी हूँ। थैंक यू।
नमस्ते जगताप जी, वंडरफुल, ब्यूटीफुल। आपने काव्य और चित्रकला के बारे में जो सौंदर्य और माधुर्य का महत्व सिखाया, बताया। और चित्रकला में वस्तु और विशेषता होनी चाहिए, अपनापन होना चाहिए, उसको शब्दार्थ से नहीं, अभिधा शक्ति से नहीं, लक्षणा शक्ति और व्यंजना शक्ति से आपने जो कहा वो बहुत ही बढ़िया है। क्योंकि हमारे नाट्य शास्त्र में भी कहा गया है, आकृत्या चेष्टया चिन्ह जात्या विज्ञाय वस्तुतः स्वयं वितर्क कर्तव्यात् नृत्याभिनयनपति। आपको जो भी अभिनय करना है, जो भी क्रियाएं करनी हैं, वो स्वयं, मतलब पहले आप आकृति, चेष्टा, चिन्ह जो भी भूतकाल में सामने दिख रहा है, उस व्यक्ति विशेष के बारे में या तो उस वस्तु विशेष के बारे में जानिए और अपने तर्क वितर्क करके उसका संयोजन करिए। तो ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट आपने बताया। और दूसरा पॉइंट उन्होंने बहुत ही मेंशन किया था, वो तो लोकधर्मी है, नाट्यधर्मी। लोकधर्मी जो लोक में प्रचलित है, सिर्फ वही देख के वैसे ही आप कॉपी पेस्ट मत करिए, उसको नाट्य धर्म में अपना धर्म बना के, अपना मनोधर्म यूज करके उसको करिए। So that's also another very big point. And of course you also mentioned about the vakrokti of the dandi. I mean, say Chitrakala and the vakrokti goes hand in hand. I think all art forms goes through the hand in hand with the aesthetic twist which is given by the vakrokti. Vakrokti jivitam kavyasya. It says that obliqueness is the life of the poetry. Now the poetry is in the heart of every artist, whether it is a poet, whether it is a dancer, whether it is a dramatist, whether it is a painter, whether it is a sculpture. The artistic deviation is that what makes the literature visually and emotionally rich and compelling. And that is how the paintings to imagine. So without the imagination, if the painting is done, it is without the rasa. And dancers, when they interpret what he mentioned, that the manodharma is a very important point. And of course, the musicians, to realize it, I think the alankaras and the vakrokti are the most important point. Thank you very much for pointing out. Thank you very much, Jagtapji. Now over to Radhakrishnan ji. We were just now talking about how he is deeply involved in the philosophy, Indian philosophy. So on the point of view of the philosopher, as a philosopher, we would like to know that how this reflection of art in literature affects or depends on the philosophy. Thank you very much. Welcome, sir.
Distinguished dignitaries on and off the dais, and my dear friends. I have been writing philosophy for the last 40 years in English and Malayalam, but unfortunately for the first time that I am invited to share a dais with the distinguished dignitaries who are so eloquent on literature, aesthetics and whatnot. So let me express my sincere thanks and gratitude for the present regime builders for giving me an opportunity. Despite being a fact that Professor Sachidanandan was my close friend, he was so particular to keep those who refused to share his ideology from any aesthetic space. He is my good friend. That may be the reason why I was not invited here, because a person who is writing philosophy for the last 40 years, how is it possible to keep him out of the dais forever? Thank you very much for your magnanimity to invite me here. And you know, I am an alien entity on the dais because everyone is so expert in art and literature. So, but my specialization is in philosophy, and since I am a technologically challenged person, I don't believe in PowerPoint presentation, but I do believe in powerful presentation. So, dear friends, I would like to talk on nature in art and art in nature. That's my theme. Because in philosophy, we have to be very clear. Otherwise, communication is just impossible. And subtle differences are great differences in philosophy, so I have to make it clear what is meant by the terms which I use. And we have got the references of the great aesthetician, philosopher, and system builder, Bharata, and about his Natya Shastra. Since a doyen in Bharatanatyam is here, she cannot escape from the philosophy of Natya written by Bharata. Bharata says that Logasya Charitam Natyam. This is very clear. Logasya Charitam Natyam. He uses three terms, Logam, Charitam and Natyam. What's meant by Loga? It can never be confined to the life of the human beings alone, but any spatio-temporal manifestation is Loga. So a piece of dust is Loga. The stardom on the heaven is Loga. And we the people who live on earth, of course, Loga. And those who have lived here and remains no more here also constitute the part of our experience, and our experience also is Loka. So the subject matter of our art, whatever it may be, whether it is Bharatanatyam or drama, or as he has She said many things about the Kerala traditional art forms and whatever may be the form of art, everyone expresses oneself through the art. That means every art is an expression of experience, nothing more and nothing less. How can we be able to move to the level of non-duality between the experience and expression is the basic question. And I think that is the challenge before the artist. A great novelist, Dostoevsky, once made a remark that even I could not express 1/10 of my experience in my literature, and that is said by none other than Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky is the greatest novelist the world has ever seen, in my opinion. And he explored the unfathomed depth of the human mind, and the inner psychic space of the human being have been explained in a brilliant manner by him in his Brothers Karamazov and Crime and Punishment. These are the two basic towers when we talk about the novels in literature, novels in any language. But so, how is it possible to express it explicitly clear? If the expression of a particular piece of experience fails to get it expressed in its entire extent, then both the artist as well as the appreciator would be unhappy. The first unhappy person is not the appreciator but the artist, because the aim of the artist is to express it in its entire extension and depth and width. And if he is able to express it like that, then he will feel that he is an artist. Only very rare movements, according to Bharata, an artist gets the real experience of being an artist. Only in very rarest of the rare movements. So what I'm telling is, this is Loka. And Charita does not mean the story. Charita means the principle that governs the momentum of the entire universe. I repeat, Charita means the principle that governs the momentum of the entire universe in its micro and macro forms. So the Charita that governs the momentum of a piece of dust is as good as or identical with the Charita that governs the stellar world. We cannot find any difference between this Charita and that Charita. Charita is rhythm in itself. And the basic movement is rhythm. And unfortunately, the Rigveda gives 391 references of rhythm, which means rhythm, which means order. And that Rita is what is meant by Charita. I think that I am clear now. Okay? That is Charita. And Natyam. Natyam does not mean that to imitate something. No. Imitation is not an art, it's not even art. It is not the duty of the artist to imitate something. The artist experiences rhythm and expresses it in any form. It may be dance, it may be drama, it may be literature, it may be music, and it may be some of the art forms which Gopalakrishnan has rightly pointed out that which are seen only very few people. For example, and it is very difficult to understand and to experience and appreciate the classical arts. He said about Kathakali, it is not that much easy to appreciate Kathakali. If you want to appreciate Kathakali, you have to learn Kathakali. And only after learning Kathakali, one must be able to appreciate it. If she dances and if she performs a Bharatanatyam piece, if you want to experience it and appreciate it, then you must know what are at least the basic lessons of Bharatanatyam. And without having the knowledge of the basic lessons of music, nobody be able to appreciate Nidhi Chahala Sukhama, as it has been rendered by our pride, Yeshudas. Dasaran has rendered it in a very, very brilliant manner. Unfortunately, he stopped it. Time limit, yes. But the issue is very simple. So I defined Natya means it is not the imitation of what you have seen there, but it is the expression of what you have experienced. So seeing and experience, there may be some sort of differences. What you have seen and what you have experienced, these are the, in often cases, these are the two different or various aspects. At least I say that let us avoid the term difference. But the varieties are there. The range of experience is there. If somebody tells the story without having content, storytelling is good. Nowadays in Malayalam, every day we are getting 50 to 60 novels. Every retired person decides to write a novel. It is too dangerous situation. And writing novel is the most easy thing in Malayalam nowadays. I don't know what happens in Marathi and Hindi. There it is also. Oh, then no doubt that we are facing the end of literature because everyone wants to write a novel. But novel, when you write a novel, you are writing your own inner experience. Take for the example of Kazantzakis, right from Report to Greco, and that work on Christ, 6? Last Temptation of Christ. And I think all these works are only the preparation to write his classic, that is God's Pauper. That is God's Pauper. In God's Pauper, he experiences Christ and expresses it. And he uses the story of Saint Francis only as a tool. Every artist uses the story as a tool to express herself or himself. And the nature itself is expressing itself in different forms. That's why while commenting on Sankhya Sutra, Ishvara Krishna has made a brilliant observation that the Prakriti dances with all her magnificent varieties before us, and we usually we used to immerse in it. And the most beautiful art form, no doubt, is Prakriti or nature. That is the most brilliant art form. And if you take the case of Kalidasa, he depicts nature, but he never imitates nature, but he expresses his experience of nature. That expression of experience of nature is the basis of every art form. If there is no experience, there is no art at all. Ultimately, the art should lead us to that experience where we have to face. When we go through the works of Kazantzakis, and especially the God's Pauper, definitely we will experience Christ. So, when she dances before us in a particular piece, we are not listening her. She is nowhere there. But she expresses an aesthetic experience, And that experience is being appreciated through the expression by the audience. So there also what is different is that we are experiencing the art, and when we say something about that, we are expressing our experience. So this is Natya. This is Natya. And he said about the Vakroti. I think that Vakroti means the aesthetic order. Not that you tell it in a different form. That is how it is often been translated by the great pundits in English. No, it is the aesthetic order. Every language has got its own different forms. Logical order, aesthetic order, and emotional order. There are innumerable types of orders in one and the same language. That's why that poets may be occasionally able to compete with the painter, with artists in painting, and with dancers, especially Kalidasa. He can compete with any dancer in the world in depicting the aesthetic experience through the dance forms in his poetry. And in Malayalam, my mother tongue, and it is my language, I can laugh and cry only in my mother tongue. I cannot laugh in English and I cannot cry in English. All the intense experiences of every person, I think, can be experienced and expressed only in his or her mother tongue. So he says, how is it possible to experience it? What a poet does in the work of poetry. And the greatest piece of poem, I have gone through some of the so-called world classical poems, both in English, in many languages, which is translated into English. But I think the greatest piece of poem which I have ever read, I have gone through almost all works of Shakespeare, and I have a very difference of experience with you, Gopal Krishnan. Nambiar is higher than Shakespeare in many respects. 100%. Nambiar is, why should you compare him with Shakespeare? With Shakespeare. And even our Kumaranashan is greater than Shakespeare. I shall tell you about it, because Shakespeare says, it's a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury signifying nothing. Am I correct? Yes. But Kumaru says, Karuduvadiha Jaya Vaya Chayan Varidi Lebhichadil Ninnida Vicharam Paramahidam Arinyu Kuda Ayus Tiradayumilla Adi Nindyam E Naratum. Whether he is superior or inferior, tell me. Whether he is superior or inferior, tell me. And Eduthajan says that Arkanaladi veli vokkaggrihikkumoru kannu. If I am not telling anything about the Malayalam literature, how can I be justified here? All the way I travelled from Kochi to Delhi, and if I am not telling something about my mother tongue and my literature, how can it be justified? So, Arkanaladi veli vokkaggrihikkumoru kannu. 5 sensory organs. Arkan means, Suryan, the sun, and all other basic elements. And these basic elements are being experienced by the sensory organs. And our experience begins with the operation of the sensory organs. No doubt about it. Then, Arkanaladi veli vokkaggrihikkumoru kannu. Kanninnu kannu manamagunna kannu. Manas does not mean mind. Bear it in mind that manas does not mean mind. In Indian systems of thought, manas means the subtle forms of all the sensory and motor organs. But mind has not been defined in the West. There is structuralism, functionalism, associationism, Gestalt, then psychoanalytic schools, then the Freudian school, the school propagated by Adler, and the third one by Jung, and the post-analytic trends. Ultimately, it reaches to Richard Rorty, who said that there is no mind. Man is an antipodian because man is free from mind. That is what the West says. But in India, it has been clearly said that mind is a subtle form of all the sensory and motor. That operation of the mind is there. But കണ്ണിന് കണ്ണ് മനമാകുന്ന കണ്ണ് അതിന് കണ്ണായിരുന്ന പൊരുൾ. There is a quantum jump, and that jump I would like to call it aesthetic jump. It is the aesthetic jump that has been experienced by the artist who gives him or her the capacity to bear any amount of insult, humiliations and work, because he once experienced that ananda. So the ultimate aim of Indian system of art, the ultimate aim of experiencing the nature is the experiencing what? Ananda, which can never be explained, approached by the sense organs and explained by the mind. It goes beyond the reach. That field of experience has been expressed in work of art. That is why we are interested to listen to appreciate to 100 times, no, more than 100 times, because once we have experienced an element of the rasa, that what she has already mentioned in her introductory speech. Is it time now? No, I have to keep the time exactly. 4 minutes. Okay. Because basically I am a teacher. A teacher can be stopped only after ringing the bell. It is the bell-to-bell life. A teacher has been tuned by the bell-to-bell. That's why I am asking you. It is the occupational hazard of a teacher. So what I am telling is that it is the aim of Indian aesthetics is the experience of Ananda. What is the aim of the Rishi? What is the aim of the Rishi? To experience Ananda. What is the aim of the artist? To experience Ananda. What is the aim of the layman in the street? To experience Ananda. So everyone tries to experience the non-dualistic Ananda in the context in which one lives. That's why the lullaby sung by the mother is still the sweetest song I have ever heard in my life. I am not concerned of the what you call the sweetness of the sound of my mother. I am not concerned. But the music in me has been generated and cultured by the lullaby sung by my mom, who is not a trained artist. So we are learning. Learning means we are assimilating. So that Ananda, the experience and expression of that Ananda, that is the highest form of art, that is the highest form of philosophy, that is the highest form of science. When a scientist experiences, for example, you take the case of Einstein, when he experienced E equals mc square, that is a poetic expression. It is a metaphor, my dear friend, a scientific metaphor. As we are using metaphors in literature, in science also, there are metaphors, and the higher experiences can be expressed only by means of metaphor. Oh, when T.S. Eliot asked the basic question, who that Shakespearean rag, do you remember it in Wasteland? Who that Shakespearean rag, that means the towel of Desdemona, which caused the tragedy. That Shakespearean rag, only a very 2 words, Shakespearean rag. Or when he says that keep the dog far ends, Stetson, keep the dog far ends, or it will dig the ground with its nails, then we will have to see the skeletons. We are afraid of the skeletons that we keep in our mind. But an artist is never afraid of the skeletons that he or she keeps in her or his mind. And if he or she is afraid of it, he or she can never be a good writer. So we are expressing I first said that we have to express ourselves with its depth and breadth and in its entirety in the piece of work. So that is how we have developed the aesthetic system. So a good student of philosophy has to learn the aesthetic system. A good student of philosophy must know what is meant by rasa. Raso vai saha. Taittiriya. Taittiriya Upanishad identifies rasa with Ananda, with Brahman. So an artist who performs on the stage, see, I asked a very simple question. I and my friend is a poet, a well-known poet in Malayalam, of my age, Mr. Balchandran. And we had a plan to interview Kalamandalam Krishnan Nair and explain his experience within the context of Natya Shastra. So we started the work. Unfortunately, in the meanwhile, he died. So I asked him a question. You have performed thousands of stages, but whom you have seen when you perform Kathakali? When you perform the Bharatanatyam, whom you have seen? We are seeing you, but whom you have seen? Then he joined his hands, and I have seen his face, the face that depicts all the magnificent varieties of human experience on stage. And he said, I am performing before Guruvayurappan. Guruvayurappan is a local Kerala deity, a Krishna, and I am performing before him. I have never seen a single human being when I perform Kathakali on the stage. It is a direct communication between God and man. That is art. If you refuse to call it God, I would say truth and man. So truth is the subject matter of artistry. And we experience nature to know truth. And let this be an opportunity to experience truth. Thank you very much for giving me a very patient hearing. This is a dangerous thing.
Done.
You have to keep it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. One of the most beautiful way of explaining the Lokasya Charitam Natyam. The word Loka was beautifully expressed as an external manifestation of internal feelings, and with the non-duality. The Charitam, which of course expressed as not the Anukarana but the Anukruti, which means that Lokanukruti, the expression of the experience of the nature which expressed, and of course the Natyam, which was another level where the expression of artist and expression of Sabha was given the importance. And importance of the mother tongue, which was expressed by you, sir, was absolutely need of the time. And who is superior, the Shakespeare, or is the question now needed to ask for the next generation, because next generation must know because through the new education policy, where Indian art, Indian education, all the dance, music, drama, all other art forms are included as part of the education system, where the all basic Indian things, right from the Natya Shastra till right from the Bhimbedka paintings and many other things are included, where हमारी विरासत पर हमें खुद को गर्व करना है. So I thank you very much for this wonderful points which you mentioned it, and I would like to, as a performing artist and of course as a chairman, I would like to add some 2-3 points where we say that the relation between the literature and art in India are not merely the theoretical ones, but they are lived together, they perform together, and they celebrated across the regions, each contributing the unity and uniquely to the continuum. Some of the example, the Kerala example, which Kathakali, where the Mahabharata in Kerala, Kathakali transforms the literary text like Mahabharata and Ramayana into visual performing, powerful performances. Here, literature becomes the moment, literature becomes the color, literature and intense dramatic experiences reaches us to the Rasovai Saha, which you have mentioned it. Of course, you should know your own art form little bit, some hasta, some rudra, some techniques, some feelings about it. Then we come to the Karnataka, the Yakshagana, Karnataka, where the Yakshagana brings the epic and Puranic stories to the life, where the dialogues are there, musics are there, improvisations are there, the Manodharma is also there, and there they interpret, they expand and contemporize it, making literature a living and evolving entity. So thus the relation between the literature and Indian art form is very clearly emphasized. Let's come to the Tamil Nadu Bharatanatyam and Sangam literature in Tamil Nadu. Bharatanatyam or any other Indian dance art forms draw deeply from the Bhakti literature, especially from Bharatanatyam. If I say the Alvaras and the Nayanmaras, which are mentioned right now by you, single verse becomes the expression. They include the gesture, emotions, the earlier quoted shlok, like Nrutyam Vadyanugam Proktam, Vadyam Geetanuprvritti cha ato Geeta Pradhanatvad. So the Bhakti Geeta Pradhan leke, matlab Nrutya follows the नृत्य वाद्य को अनुसरण करती है, वाद्य गीत का अनुकरण करती है, और गीत जो है, गीत के महत्व जो कवि ने जो रचना की है वो प्रधान है. कवि की रचना में अगर हम देखे जाए तो बहुत सुंदर काव्य नहीं है, उसका संस्कृत का श्लोक है, आंगिकम भुवनम यस्य वाचिकम सर्ववांगमयम आहार्यम चंद्र तारादि तम नमः स्वातिक. Everyone expresses this shloka, this beautiful poetry, into their dance form in a very different form. So this is yato hastas tato drishti, yato drishtis tato manaha, yato manas tato bhavo tato rasaha. So the hasta, the only one hand gesture, leads you to the ultimate aim of the raso vaisaha, the Brahmananda Sahodara Abhivyakti, or the feeling, whether it is to the artist or to the rasika. Everything is to that one hasta. So this is the beauty of the hasta and literature coming together. Then coming to the Odisha and Odissi Nritya, where the Geet Govinda in Odisha dance are the inseparable form, and the poetry is just not recited, it is sung, it is danced, it is sculptured, it is seen always all in the sculptures, temple carvings. You can see the painting, you can pattachitras, you can see the beautiful storyline, you can see the beautiful literature in that painting, what you were mentioning about the painting, sir. Thus the literature translates its textual boundaries to become a multidimensional artistic expression. Then coming to the Andhra Pradesh, the Telangana, the Kuchipudi dance form, which literally takes the dramatization. You know, along with the drama, the dialogue, the Vachika Abhinaya, and also the dance are included. The characters are separately portrayed, and the Bhagavad Mela tradition shows how literature becomes the community performance, preserving both text and tradition with the Sanskrit and Prakrit, both language of their own regional language importance is given. Then we will also look into the Maharashtra, the Abhangas and the Kirtana tradition in Maharashtra, the poetry of the Santa Tukaram, and the Jnaneshwar become the Kirtanam, the collective singing, the spiritual performance. Here, literature is not the individual one. It becomes the collective artistic experience and the devotion, the Ananda Anubhavo, Yasya sa eva rasa uchyate, that which is experienced as a bliss, which is called the rasa, is experienced by the complete community, the entire community of the Kirtana who is doing it. So, nahi rasadrute kaschit artham pravartete. So, without the rasa, nothing meaningful can truly function. So, emphasis of Kirtanas, each word reaching the bhakta to the ultimate goal of the rasa, or ultimate goal of the moksha, or ultimate goal of the Ananda, Brahmananda Sahodara. Coming to the West Bengal, the Jatra, or the literary narratives in the Bengal, the Jatra theatre adapts epics, historical narratives are added, modern literature also added into it, and it demonstrates how literature continues to evolve through the performances and reaching to the wider audiences through the literature, through the katha, through the performances also. The Rajasthan, the fad paintings, what you say, one of the example I've taken of the Rajasthan, of course there are many paintings, but where folk deities like Babuji and Devanarayan ji are also performed in that and painted in that. These are not merely the paintings ones, but they are the visual textbooks performed through the storytelling and the music. Thus the literature becomes a portable visual art. And we come to the North India, the Ram Leela tradition across the North India. Ram Leela transformed the Tulsidasa's Ramcharita-manas into the theatre, through the music, through the community rituals. This is perhaps the most powerful example of how literature becomes collective cultural memory in the history of Indian arts. So let us conclude with all dignitaries on the stage and also on this, that as we reflect on this our tradition, one truth becomes very evidently clear, that India has never merely read the literature separately. India has sung it, India has danced it, India has enacted it, India has painted it, India has lived in it. Let me conclude with a profound reminding one, Ek eva rasaha. Pusau nana rupena drishyate. The same aesthetic essence manifests in countless forms. This is the spirit of Indian culture. Unity in aesthetic diversity. Today, as we stand at the intersection of tradition and modernity, our responsibility is not only to preserve these forms, but to ensure that their soul, the rasa, remains alive. Because when literature and art come together, they do not merely entertain. Entertainment is not the ultimate goal of whether it is Indian literature or whether it is Indian art forms. It is the rasa, it is the Brahmananda, it is the Ananda. So, they do not merely entertain, but they elevate, they enlighten and transform human consciousness. And in that transformation lies the true essence of Indian civilization. Let us continue to nurture this sacred dialogue between art and literature, so that what we inherit as a heritage, we pass on as a living inspiration to the next generation. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
इट वॉज़ इंडीड एन इंसाइटफुल सेशन। वाकई में साहित्य और कला को पृथक कर पाना असंभव है। दोनों लोक में उपजते हैं और एक दूसरे का हाथ थामे अभिव्यक्ति को सुगम बनाते हैं। हम आभार व्यक्त करना चाहेंगे हमारी अध्यक्ष महोदया संध्या पुरेचा जी का और हमारे तीनों वक्ताओं का, के गोपाल कृष्णन जी, जयप्रकाश जे जगताप जी और KS राधाकृष्णन जी। आप सभी का बहुत बहुत आभार। हार्टफुल थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग हियर एंड एनलाइटनिंग ऑल ऑफ अस। इसी के साथ हमारे तीसरे दिन का पहला सत्र यहाँ समाप्त होता है। अगले सत्र में 12 बजे आप सबसे दोबारा भेंट होगी और चलेंगे पूर्वोत्तर में और कहानी पाठ सुनेंगे।